So let's have a look at the vasculature in more detail. Now, we say that the jejunum receives greater supply of what are called jejunal arteries, then ileal arteries, and it's slightly redder, and then it becomes pinker as we pass towards the large intestine. But let's just have a look and see what we have if we look at the vasculature. Now, the jejunum and the ileum receive arterial blood from branches that come from the superior mesenteric artery. The superior mesenteric artery originates from the aorta at approximately the L1 vertebral level. Remember, the stomach was supplied by arteries that come from the celiac trunk, and that was at T12. So this superior mesenteric artery is coming from the aorta at about the L1 vertebral level. And what it does, it gives rise to a whole series of blood vessels called the jejunal and the ileal. The jejunal arteries, as you'd expect, supply the jejunum, and the ileal arteries supply the ileum. Now, obviously, with there being a transition from jejunum to ileum, there's going to be a transition of jejunal arteries and ileal arteries. And what these do is these blood vessels run up through the mesentery. So the mesentery that's suspending the small intestine, these blood vessels run up through the mesentery. And as they do this, they form what are known as anastomotic loops. And these loops essentially parallel the small intestine. So if you imagine the superior mesenteric artery is running along the base of the mesentery, then it's giving rise to blood vessels that run through the mesentery, but these fan out. The length of the root of the mesentery is about 5, 6, 7 centimeters, but the actual length of the small intestine is 6, 7 meters. So these blood vessels fan out, and they fan out and run towards the free edge of the mesentery where the jejunum and ileum are located. And once they approach the free edge, they form these loops which run along the inside of the small intestine, and they run parallel to it. And these are known as arterial arcades. We can see some in the diagram. They're running up towards, and then you have these loops, these arcades, which are running parallel to the small intestines. And then, now you've got these arcades running parallel to the jejunum and the ileum. Small straight arteries come off them, and these are called vasa vecta, or straight arteries. They leave the arcades and go and supply the jejunum or the ileum. With the arcades running parallel, these straight arteries then run towards the jejunum or the ileum themselves. So these are really important, and we'll go over these again when we look at the blood supply to the entire gastrointestinal tract in a later lecture. Venous drainage from these, again, is relatively straightforward, but we will go over it when we look at the portal system in a later lecture. But if you're comfortable with the arterial supply, then essentially the venous drainage is similar. They're going to drain into what's known as the superior mesenteric vein, and that forms part of the portal system. And we'll look at that as it passes through the liver. We'll look at the duodenum and its blood supply in lecture 9 when we look at the pancreas.